Hello everyone and welcome back. In our first lesson, we discovered that the pianist in chamber music is never just an accompanist, but a true partner in dialogue. Today, we will learn how to read a score in a way that reveals this dialogue. Many pianists prepare new chamber work by looking only at their own part, studying a lot their own part. Of course, is demanding enough, but if we limit ourselves to it, we remain blind to what is really happening in the music. I am talking about the conversation between instruments. So, what should be the first overview of the piece? I guess that the very first step with any chamber work is very simple. Play it through once to get a general impression. If it is a sonata, I highly recommend looking through the entire piece, not just, let's say, the first movement. Pay attention to how the opening movement relates to the finale. Many players make the mistake of taking the first movement really much more faster than the last one. But usually, this was not the composer's intention. Already here, ask yourself, what is this piece about? What kind of atmosphere or message does it carry? Composers were not just combining beautiful notes. Yes, of course, it was the idea as well. But they were, I guess, expressing deep moral, emotional, and philosophical ideas. To understand this message, I should say, ask yourself questions. When was the piece written? How old was the composer at that time? Very young? Already mature? What was happening in the world? Was it a time of peace, of war, something in between? What epoch was that? Which other composers were active at that moment and what were they reading? Everything is really much more connected than maybe it appears at the very first look. So these questions radically change the way of studying and then playing any musical work. Of course, music always reflects context. Even a few details about the composer's life and epoch can change really the way you hear and play the piece. Now let's move from the big picture to the details. Open the full score and when you play and study, please don't look only at your piano part. This is essential because chamber music is not written as a solo plus accompaniment. It is a texture of voices that are deeply connected, that answer and echo each other, that go both horizontal and vertical way. And like the first approach, help your eyes. Use color coding. Choose a favorite one, for example, blue, and mark the main theme wherever it appears, in your part and in your partner's part. Use another color, let's say purple, for instance, for counterpoint, imitation, echoes, and maybe even a third color that can mark climaxes or special transitions. After this, your score becomes a map of the dialogue and look like a very beautiful picture. But this way, you see immediately who has the theme, who responds, and where the voices overlap. The next step is to actually play the other instrument's part. If you're working on a duo, take the violin, cello, clarinet, flute, whatever. Take this line and play it on the piano. If you're working on a trio or larger ensembles, ideally, of course, play through all parts. But for now, let's focus on duo repertoire. Once you have done this, compare. How many times does the theme appear in your part? And how many times in your partner's? In which register? What intervals separate the entries? A third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and why? For example, if the theme begins in F major and later appears in C major, the dominant, the effect will naturally feel brighter and broader. This is a composer's way of building tension. When the other instrument has the theme, please check carefully. What are your hands doing in that very moment? Is your line above, below, or in the middle of theirs? Which register does your sound occupy compared to theirs? This awareness tells you what dynamics are really possible. You can never cover your partner when they carry the theme. You can never, even if you don't have the theme. If you both play the theme together, you must decide who should be dominant and balance accordingly. A very useful exercise is to play the partner's part with your left hand, then with your right hand. Afterwards, play your piano part normally, but sing their line aloud. Yes, it is a bit tricky, I know, but it forces you to hear both voices at once. Then you don't have to forget about the empathy. Notice the difficult spots in the other instrument's part. You know, we always focus ourselves, or let's say very often, to our own difficulties, without even considering that the other instrument has own difficulties. You have absolutely know where are the shifts for violinists or cellists, where, I don't know, clarinet has to take a very big, huge breath, so he or she needs time for extra breath. Where instruments have a bit tricky register that maybe it is very easy for us pianists to cover them. These are the places where your partner will need more time, more air, more support. If you know this, you will naturally adjust with tempo, with dynamics, with space. Only after you understand all of this, the themes, the registers, the challenges of your partner, you should focus on solving your own technical issues at the piano. Then another important thing. I do not recommend listening to famous recordings while you are studying the piece. Most of us already know them. Oistrakh Richter or Borin, Rostropovich, Fischer, and many others. If you listen again too early, you risk copying unconsciously. Let's say we cannot even be next to copying. Okay. But instead of creating your own interpretation, you risk really to do a very not good copy. First, always discover the piece yourself. Mark all the sense. And then, later, when you are done, of course, listen to great violinists, pianists. But the first reading must be your own. So, what are practical exercises? Play through the whole piece once for an overview. Open the score and mark the main themes in one color, counter themes in another. Play your part. Play your partner's part. Play one hand of your part and one hand of theirs together, and then switch. And then play all your part, piano, your part, and try to sing the line of the other instrument. Identify most difficult passages and imagine how you can support them. After this process, you will see the music not as piano plus, but as one organism with two or more voices. So,